So now I want to dive in to rebuttal Crystal People Stokes in her comment that you weren't 15 years here 15 years ago. I'm going to kind of shoot back that Crystal People Stokes wasn't there. Where was she, in 1949 when they built the tunnel? She was born, I think, in 51. So where was she in the 50s when they were, when they were building the tunnel? Why wasn't she fighting for us when she was 2 years old, like Kevin should have been? So I've been doing some digging. I've been going back to the microfilms at the Erie County Library to do some research just on the building of the Kensington and the Humboldt Expressway. So I'm going to run through some of the microfilms that I found. So this is from 1949, but the earliest reference I could find to any sort of, let's see if I can rotate this. So this is October 4th, 1935. So this is the first kind of appearance of any sort of discussion of the Humboldt. So it says an underpass at the Humboldt to be discussed. So objections of residents lead to belief proposal will be voted down by the council. So this was 1935, where this was the first appearance of the Humboldt. So there was a discussion for underpass at the Humboldt. So I think their first iteration was they were going to build an underpass at Main and Humboldt. So 1935 people were against it. So the next article I found was also from 1935. So it says the council group rejects a plan for the underpass. So the main Humboldt tunnel project, it met a lot of opposition from neighborhood and property owners. So meeting organized opposition of property owners of the neighborhood. The legislation committee of the Common Council yesterday, so 1935, turned down a proposal to construct an east-west traffic underpass at Main Street and Humboldt Parkway. The proposal included in the list of work relief projects advanced several months ago was rejected when the committee, by unanimous vote, ordered all actions rescinded. So in 1935, the project was, shot down by this council group. And then the next time it this was from March 1949. So the next appearance was then again another 14 or 15 years later, 1949. So this is again a throughway plan for the Humboldt section. So perils, inconvenience cited by taxpayers. So the main Humboldt Taxpayers Association yesterday expressed deep concern over the effects the proposed throughway would have in that section of the city. In a letter to the Common Council, this association said, "We are deeply concerned by the published report that the state has plans prepared to construct the two bridges at Main and Humboldt, making a 6-lane traffic throughway of the center of Humboldt and lowering the parkway so as to tunnel under the bridges." So the letter was signed by Eugene M. Downey, who is the president of the association. He pointed out that construction will take 2 years, during which time traffic will be rerouted, resulting in safety hazards and other dangers and inconveniences in a highly residential neighborhood. So the association also objected to the removal of a substantial part of the land and trees between the present center portion of the highway and the extension of the throughway through Delaware Park, through the Delaware Park Meadow. So a state throughway or any part of one, it seems to us, should not plow through the center of the city's most beautiful and valuable residential area. So you can see resistance to the Humboldt goes back to 1949. So even before they started building, people were speaking out. And this guy, this Eugene M. Downey, who is the president, he's a dentist that he appears in later, but he was kind of the leader at this time of the neighborhood opposing the building of the projects. So fast forward a month later to April 27th, 1949. So it appears again, this hearing set on the Humboldt tunnel plan. So let's see if I can zoom in. So the public session, so this May 24th, 1949 was the Common Council's legislation committee. So the legislation committee of the Common Council yesterday voted to hold a public hearing on May 24th on the State Department of Public Works decision to erect a tunnel and overhead bridge at Main and Humboldt. The action was taken despite pleas from the Main Humboldt Taxpayers Association that the committee go on the record as opposing the project. William Smith, president of the association, said that the residents of the area are opposed to the plan because it would result in depreciation of properties. So again, as we can talk about, I think the in the current version of this tunnel, we're going to see depreciation of the properties, especially at the either end of the tunnel with the increased particulate matter. So they set this hearing in April 27th. So see the next article that I find. So this dentist, so again, this normal person, just a dentist, he fights the state's plans for the underpass. So maybe I misspoke earlier. So this William Potter is the dentist, but the state's plan to build an underpass at Main and Humboldt and convert Humboldt Parkway from a 6 to 8 lane route will be more harmful than beneficial, a Buffalo dentist charged last night at a meeting of the Buffalo Business Federation at the Hotel Statler. So William E. Potter of 148 West Humboldt Parkway said the blasting of thousands of yards of rock will be an unbearable distraction to patients at Sisters Hospital. The elimination of the island of trees in Humboldt Parkway will destroy its beauty, and the increased traffic will impair the recreational value of the southern section of Delaware Park. There is nothing sacred about this plan, Dr. Potter said. Humboldt Parkway and Delaware Park are two of the most beautiful sections of the city. Why can't they be left that way? Dr. Potter charges followed a progress report on the state thruway in the arterial improvement program for Buffalo by Elmer G.H. Youngman, Assistant Director of Engineering at the State Department of Public Works. So this is another article from 1949. So May 15th, so about 10 days before the hearing. So loss of state aid feared if underpass is rejected. So blocking of Main Humboldt project would divert funds to Gotham, planners feel. So this is the exact same playbook that they're using now. So I know that state officials have kind of put fear out in the air that if we don't build this tunnel now, all this money that the city got is going to go to New York State, or it's not going to go here, which is false. So I think the federal money, I think the feds gave around $50 million. That money I think could go away, but the state's like $1 billion investment, or some of the majority of the state aid has to go to has to stay in Buffalo. And the thing is, the Humboldt Parkway is at the end of its useful life, so it needs to be repaired either way. So it's kind of the same fear mongering that they were doing back in 1949. So it says Buffalo could lose most of the proposed state finance arterial highway system if the Main Humboldt underpass is blocked. This fear was expressed yesterday by members of the City Planning Commission and officials of the State Department of Public Works. So yeah, just kind of the same thing. It's just funny when you go back and read how it's the same stuff that they're doing now. Of same fears, kind of same state versus residents that don't want it. And then here's a sketch from the Buffalo News. So this was a sketch of the controversial project to ease traffic congestion. So that's like a rendering. This is a newspaper clip. We've come quite a ways in our renderings of it, but this was a picture that I found in the underpass. And I think you'll recognize this. Anyone that's been on Main Street in Buffalo turning on that, there's that really weird, bizarre area where I can't believe it's a thing where you have to turn. It's just a mess. I think this is the area that they redid because it's just a disaster over there. And then, of course, you had the employment groups coming to back the project like they always do. We have the Buffalo Niagara Partnership here in Buffalo that kind of is just, they're just the business people. And I don't know, they are kind of detached from reality, in my opinion. But the employment group backs the Humboldt job. So the Civic Full Employment Committee yesterday sent on record in support of the state's $1.2 million project. Again, $1.2 million. So this project now is going to be projected at $1 billion. So inflation is a real thing, and it's really, really a thing when you look back even longer, 1949. The fact that we could build an underpass with $1.2 million, I don't even think $1.2 million would cover the insurance for a handful of people to even get on the job. So they pointed out that the construction of the underpass would provide a year's employment for 100 workers. So again, they always use these small numbers. 100 jobs for a year, this is worth, 50 years or 60 years of the legacy. So they advised that residents of the section were generally opposed to the project, but they approved it. And the business community kind of came to back the to back the project. So this is May 20th. So this is a couple days before that May 24th meeting. So the Maine Humboldt Taxpayers Association, they met at 8 o'clock at a church to outline final plans in its fight against making Humboldt Parkway a part of the state's arterial highway system. So the president, or the director of the association, he wants to acquaint people with all facts in the situation before its officers and members appear May 24th before the Common Council's public hearing on the project. So yeah, very similar to the town hall that we had of just, residents organizing to kind of help inform people. Because that's, I think, one of the things that's been striking to me is just how uninformed or how little, the public actually knows about this project. A lot of people know kind of generally it's happening, but they don't really know the ins and outs of the project. So this is 3 days before the council meeting. So again, the state planned for a $2 million underpass. So 1.2, 2 million. It's, in the $1949, $2 million was a lot. But this is Claudia Sales State's plan for underpass at Main Street before taxpayers meeting. So the plan ran into a major stumbling block last night with a taxpayer group forming a solid front to prevent it, and the Democratic councilman asserting that the city might not sanction it. So this was a council president who was essentially siding with the people and encouraging the opposition, which is something the Common Council doesn't do now. They don't ever side with the people. They are always opposed to the people's wills. And yeah, you would never see, and that's been one thing, is like, this is all leading up to a meeting at the Common Council. The Common Council has not discussed or will not talk about this in their chambers at all because it's, the state's purview. Even though they're the City of Buffalo Common Council, you won't hear any of the council members talk about this project, even the council members who it's in their own district. So it's a couple more articles. This is just the same article, the long. So here's a front page. You can see the opposition imperils the Humboldt job. So they had, there's just a good amount of people opposing this project. And I think one of the fun things about seeing the old microfilms is just you see things like this, like communist says Reds will go underground. So yeah, just some of the fun things you see in headlines. You can kind of get a sense of what was going on there. It's crazy. They're talking about the Soviet Union, and Ukraine's an issue now. So it's just funny how certain things don't change. So then here is more than 4,000 voiced their opposition. So City Hall deluged with protests from churches, hospitals, clubs, and individuals. So climaxing civic opposition unmatched in recent years. More than 4,000 property owners and residents of the Maine Humboldt area will try to deliver the coup de grace today at the state's plan for a $2 million underpass at the intersection. So indications were, however, that the final blow may come from the Common Council itself. At a meeting last week, the council president expressed dissatisfaction with the project, and reports are that other legislators feel likewise. So the city clerk announced that a recipient of petitions bearing the names of 3,550 persons were at the close of business. It was estimated that between 4,000 and 5,000 signatures had registered their dissatisfaction. So lots of people were opposed to the building of the highway in the first place. And then this is from the day of the meeting. So it says, foes gird to kill Maine Humboldt underpass today. So more than 4,000 voice opposition, which is the article I read. So just another day from the day of the legislation meeting. And then the day of the meeting, so the 25th. So charges fly at hearing in City Hall. So foes of Humboldt Tunnel are accused of horse and buggy attitude on changes. So charges of horse and buggy thinking and muddled state planning were exchanged freely yesterday during a public hearing on the proposed Maine Humboldt underpass. Both sides fired their heaviest guns during the 90-minute session, which ended with the Common Council Legislation Committee voting unanimously to table the proposal. So I think this horse and buggy thinking versus muddled state planning. The muddled state planning is definitely still a thing, because that's kind of what we're facing, is just a bunch of state planners and politicians that are, I guess, muddled. Muddle is a polite way to say what they are. And then this horse and buggy thinking. You have, people today that want to get rid of cars and return to a natural parkway, which at the time, these horse and buggy people were thought to be in the way of progress. Because I think at the time the automobile was just seen as, it was the future and it was here to stay, and we need to build our cities for cars, and horse and buggies aren't coming back. Also at this time, 1949, Buffalo's population was, it was very high, and it was projected to, continue to exponentially increase, which really didn't end up happening. So even this infrastructure was built for cars and traffic that, never ended up coming to fruition. Let's see. So this was the day of the 25th. The next day, so the charges fly, and again, Reds march into heart of Shanghai was the headline in the newspaper. And here's a picture of this rubber mask. So this guy, I guess, robbed a bank and was wearing this rubber mask, and then it sounded like he got caught and he had this rubber mask in his bag on it. So not the smartest criminal, but I think that's just a funny picture. These are all microfilms from the city's central library. So, here's pictures from that day. So here's the council chambers packed. You just don't see things like this today. I think there's literally no attendance at the Common Council meetings because the Common Council doesn't want people paying attention. So, just a really incredible shot of just the chambers packed, and our city was having a lively debate on the future of our city, and just something that's not around anymore. Because so here's kind of the people that were running our city. So neighborhood leaders, city planners, battle and hearing. I don't know who these guys are, but I'm assuming they're all the council members, and a bunch of old white guys running the show. So pictures from that day, 1949. Just a really striking image. Today there's no discussion today about the Humboldt underpass in the chambers, and there will be no meeting either. The Common Council will just get in line and not say anything. So here's the concentrated parallel. So that was kind of an overview of just my research. So Crystal People Stokes, if we weren't here 15 years ago, why weren't you in the 1950s advocating for the highway not being built? I guess is my rebuttal, because it was a ridiculous statement, and